I was just scrolling through my iPad, the screen glowing in the late afternoon light, when I saw her face. There she was, my granddaughter Brittany, laughing through some filter that turned her into a cartoon character. "Wait till you see what this old hag did," she squeaked, her voice shrill and mocking. My stomach dropped before I even hit play. Then came the video. It was me, stumbling and spinning awkwardly in the middle of a dance she begged me to learn with her. At the time, I thought it was just a silly thing between us. Now I was watching myself be ridiculed by millions of strangers. The comments poured in like a flood of cold water. "So cringe. Why is she even trying? Sit down, Grandma." Every word chipped away at my dignity like a hammer to porcelain. I set the device on the table and exhaled shakily. I paid for that iPad. I paid for her tuition. I paid for every little dream she dared to chase. And this was the thank you. That afternoon, I just wanted to spend time with her, laugh, make memories, maybe share some cake, but all I got was humiliation dressed up as content. I sat alone in the living room, the silence so loud it hurt. I had given her everything, hoping it would teach her love. Instead, she learned how to turn me into a viral punchline. When I confronted her, she just shrugged. "It's just a joke, Grandma," she said, like that made it okay. But it wasn't. It never would be. I could still hear the party noise echoing in the background. I had shown up with love. She showed up with a camera. And there I was, sitting in the fallout of my own blind generosity. When I think back to Brittany, my mind always wanders to that tiny living room years ago. She couldn't have been more than 6, her little hands flipping through a box of old photographs. She asked questions about every face, every scene, trying to piece together her place in a family that had recently fractured. Her father had just walked out, left a hole in her world that I instinctively tried to fill. That day, something changed in me. I wasn't just Grandma anymore. I became her anchor. While her mother worked overtime and her dad stopped calling, I kept the wheels turning. I picked up more shifts at the historical archives, cataloging relics for museums, and quietly set aside extra money. Private school fees, ballet shoes, her first little used car. If she needed it, I made it happen. Each thing I gave with love, thinking it would mold her into someone who valued effort. I remember watching her practice pirouettes in my hallway, her laughter echoing off the walls. I thought I was nurturing her joy, but somewhere along the line, my giving turned into a habit, and her asking turned into expectation. I tried to show her how patience bore beauty, how a rose doesn't bloom overnight. I'd take her into the garden, point out the stubborn weeds, the resilient blossoms. Everything worth keeping takes work. I'd say, "Dirt's still under my nails." But she'd roll her eyes and call it boring. "Gardening is for old people, Grandma," she'd mutter, scrolling past me. Still, I kept giving. The newest phone, the editing software, the camera she swore would help her make it. Each gift felt like tossing coins into a wishing well, hoping one would finally grant me a moment of real connection. But the more I gave, the more distant she became. I held out hope longer than I should have, even as the entitlement crept in, wrapping around her like ivy. I told myself she was just finding her way. Maybe someday she'd look back and understand. There were quiet afternoons on the porch, lemonade in hand, when I tried to tell her stories from my own life. How I found my first antique teacup in a dusty thrift store. How each item I collected had a history, a soul. She barely looked up from her phone, always tapping, always distracted. The girl who once danced barefoot in my kitchen now seemed like a stranger chasing approval from strangers. But I kept trying. Maybe I was clinging to what used to be. Maybe I thought that love alone could bridge the growing gap. Then came her birthday. I spent the morning in the kitchen, baking her favorite lemon cake from scratch. I hung pastel balloons, set out framed photos of her from every age, dimpled baby cheeks to high school graduation. I wanted her to feel celebrated, to feel seen. As guests started arriving, I saw her in the corner, glued to that expensive camera I'd bought her, snapping selfies, checking angles. When she finally called me over, I felt a flicker of hope. "Come on, Grandma," she said, her voice sugary sweet. "Let's film a TikTok dance. It'll be fun." I hesitated, wiping flour from my hands, but something inside me still wanted to be part of her world. "All right," I said softly, but just once. I watched her move effortlessly, her limbs like liquid. She had the rhythm of youth. When it was my turn, I tried. God, I tried, but my knees didn't bend the way they used to, and I couldn't quite follow the beat. Laughter rippled through the room. Not kind laughter, not shared joy. Something colder, sharper. Brittany laughed too, but there was an edge to it, a glint in her eye I hadn't seen before. And suddenly, I wasn't a guest at her party. I was the punchline. I forced a smile and asked if we could try again. Maybe if I got it right, she'd be proud. Maybe we'd laugh together like we used to. But as I stumbled through the steps, I noticed something that made my stomach twist. She wasn't filming for memories. She was filming for content. Her camera wasn't aimed at capturing joy, it was waiting for failure. My failure. I caught a glimpse of her screen, the angle, the caption she was typing. "Watch my grandma embarrass herself trying to dance." I felt the heat rise in my chest, my face burning. I excused myself as politely as I could and slipped away to my bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to steady my breath. My hands shook as I opened my email. There it was, a link with the title already circulating. Asterisk, watch my grandma make a fool of herself. Asterisk. I didn't have to press play. The words alone told the whole story. She had uploaded it. She had edited it. She had shared it with the world. And now I was a trending joke. I pressed the back of my hand to my lips, fighting back something between a sob and a scream. I had spent my life preserving memories. Now I had become a meme. Still wearing the apron I'd tied that morning, I walked back into the party. The music played. The guests laughed. No one seemed to notice the small crack forming deep inside me. When I confronted Brittany later, her voice was airy, careless. "Grandma, it's just for fun. Don't be so sensitive." Her friend chimed in. "It's a trend. Jamie, everyone does it." But I wasn't everyone. I was her grandmother. I was the woman who held her when her parents split. I was the one who taught her how to tie her shoes, how to bake bread from scratch. And now I was entertainment. I straightened my shoulders. "No," I said, my voice steady even as my heart raced. "This wasn't fun. This was disrespect. And you crossed a line." The room fell quiet. Her friends shifted uncomfortably, unsure of whether to laugh or leave. Brittany blinked at me like I was speaking another language. "It's not that serious," she mumbled, eyes darting to her phone. I could see her calculating view counts, comments, likes. That screen had become her mirror, and I no longer fit the reflection she wanted to see. "Just because everyone does it doesn't make it right," I said, softer now. but firm. She looked away, her jaw clenched. I didn't push her. There was no point trying to win a shouting match in front of an audience. So I turned and walked back to the kitchen, slicing another piece of cake as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. That was the moment I knew something in me had shifted. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was awake. Later, Jaime, one of her friends, came in to grab a soda and lingered. She looked at me with a kind of awkward sympathy. "Brittany's intense, huh?" she said, half joking. "She is," I replied, keeping my tone even. "Always has been. Teenagers," she said, shrugging. But I wasn't thinking about teenagers. I was thinking about patterns, and how easy it is to mistake cruelty for confidence when no one draws the line. I peeked into the living room again and saw Brittany laughing, spinning around for another selfie, her phone practically glued to her hand. I watched from a distance, unnoticed and unneeded, and I made a quiet decision then and there. I wouldn't beg to be seen anymore. I wouldn't chase her attention. I would stop pouring my love into a vessel that had no intention of holding it. Let her post, let her trend. I had something more powerful than virality. I had my voice, and it was time to use it. 3 days after the party, I sat in my living room, the TV silent, the room too still. I hadn't turned anything on. Silence felt safer than noise. My phone lay face down on the coffee table, notifications buzzing beneath it like tiny reminders of public humiliation. I couldn't bring myself to look. I had called my daughter that morning, voice trembling, hoping she might understand. She didn't. "Mom, it's not that deep," she said, her tone clipped with impatience. "Kids post everything. You're overthinking it." I hung up feeling lonelier than I had in years. Even my own child couldn't see the wound. I thought about going outside to trim the roses, the shears already in my hand. But I didn't move. What was the point? The flowers wouldn't judge me, true, but they wouldn't heal me either. They didn't know what it meant to be called pathetic by strangers you'd never met. I wasn't some helpless old lady fumbling through life. I had been an archivist, a preserver of the past. I had raised a family, paid bills, buried loved ones, and still found the strength to plant seeds each spring. The doorbell rang. I flinched. For a second, I considered pretending not to be home. But old habits die hard. I stood up, straightened my sweater, and opened the door. Surprise, a familiar voice beamed. There she was, Carol Barnes, hair silver now, styled into a bob, her smile as mischievous as I remembered from college. I blinked, stunned. "Carol," I managed. In the flesh, she laughed. "You gonna make me stand on the porch, or are we still friends?" I stepped aside and let her in, the scent of her perfume stirring up memories of dorm rooms and late-night coffees. We hadn't seen each other in over 15 years. She settled at my kitchen table like no time had passed at all. "What on earth brings you here?" I asked, already reaching for the kettle like muscle memory. "I thought you were living it up in Arizona." "I am," she said, casually. "Came to visit my niece for a bit." But then I saw that asterisk video. Her voice dipped. My hands froze over the teacups. "You saw it?" "I did. That's why I'm here." She reached across the table and took my hand before I could shrink into myself. "What your granddaughter did was mean. It was public, and it was wrong." My throat tightened. Shame surged again like a wave I couldn't control. "Carol saw it." "Don't," she said gently. "Don't you dare feel ashamed. You have nothing to be embarrassed about. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But I'd seen the comments, heard the laughter in my head on a loop. It's everywhere, I whispered. People laughing at me. Millions. Carol reached into her purse and pulled out a tablet. Not everyone is laughing. Look, she handed it to me, already pulled up to the video. I winced, ready to look away, but she tapped the screen. Read the comments. I did, slowly. And what I saw stopped me cold. This is just sad. That girl doesn't deserve her. My grandma passed last year. I'd give anything to have a moment like this. Respect your elders. This isn't funny. It's cruel. Your grandmother's a gem. You should be ashamed. My breath caught. I hadn't seen these before. Buried under the noise were voices of kindness, of clarity, of people who saw me, really saw me. I looked up at Carol, linking back the tears that had been threatening to spill for days. There are good people out there, she said, voice soft but certain. People who can tell the difference between a joke and humiliation. I nodded slowly, still unsure what to say. She studied me for a moment, then leaned forward with a glint in her eye. You know, there's something you could do about this. I gave her a tired look. What? Asked Brittany to take it down again. She already refused. Carol shook her head. I'm not saying ask her anything. I'm saying do something for yourself. Like what? She grinned. Start your own TikTok account. I actually laughed. A real, surprised bark of laughter. My own what? You heard me. Make your own content. Carol, I said, trying to keep a straight face. I'm 72. I don't even like selfies. Exactly, she said, beaming. You're 72, and you have something none of them do. Real life. Real skills, real stories. I opened my mouth to protest, but she wasn't finished. Brittany thinks she can define who you are by one video. Why not show people the truth? Let you tell your story. I shook my head. This is ridiculous. But some small flicker of fire lit up inside me. I restore books. I said weakly. I plant tomatoes. I sew buttons back on shirts. Who wants to watch that? Carol pulled out her tablet again. Well, apparently 8 million people want to watch this 93-year-old woman teach them how to make pie crust. She swiped. And this gentleman, 85. Woodworking lessons. 3 million followers. Another swipe. This woman's our age. Vintage fashion tips. 5 million. I blinked. They didn't look like influencers. They looked like neighbors. Like someone you'd sit next to on a bench and actually listen to. The internet isn't just for the young, Carol said gently. And it sure as heck isn't just for the shallow. I stared down at my hands, the same ones that had patched torn quilts, mended spines on century-old books, and coaxed roses from tired soil. Hands with stories in every line and scar. Even if I wanted to, I said, I wouldn't know where to start. Carol smiled like she'd been waiting for that. That's why I'm here, she said. I've got 2 weeks before I fly back to Arizona, and lucky for you, I've learned a thing or two about social media. I gave her a skeptical look. She laughed. Don't give me that. I run the entire online presence for my retirement community. Those bridge tournament live streams don't schedule themselves. For the first time in days, I smiled without forcing it. "You're serious about this?" "As a heart attack," she grinned. "And at our age, that's pretty darn serious." I looked around my kitchen, the shelves lined with jars of preserves. The antique clock I had restored ticked steadily on the wall, the herbs hanging to dry near the window. Nothing flashy, nothing viral. But it was real. It was mine. What would I even call it? I murmured, the idea taking root despite my doubt. Carol tapped her chin thoughtfully. "Something warm, something wise, something you." Then her eyes lit up. "How about Grandma Bea's wisdom and wonders?" I let it roll around in my mind. It felt right. Grounded, genuine. "All right," I said, sitting up straighter. "Let's do it. Not out of spite, not as revenge, but because I had a story to tell, and maybe, just maybe, the world needed to hear it." Carol raised her teacup in a quiet toast. "To second acts," she said, eyes shining. "May yours be even better than the first." We clinked cups, the soft chime echoing through the kitchen like a promise. That night, after she left with plans to return in the morning, I stood in front of my bookshelf. My fingers brushed the spines of volumes I'd rescued, leather-bound histories, faded novels, crumbling journals brought back to life with time and patience. Each one had nearly been lost, and yet, here they were, preserved. Maybe it was time I did the same for myself. I reached for my phone and, instead of pushing it away like I had for days, I opened the camera app. There I was, silver hair, crow's feet, eyes that had seen 7 decades of heartbreak, laughter, and grace. No filter, no script, just me. I hit record. "Hi," I said, the sound of my own voice steady and clear. "My name is Beatrix Sterling, but you can call me Grandma Bea." The next morning, Carol helped me set up a makeshift tripod from a stack of cookbooks and a cookie tin. "This feels ridiculous," I muttered, adjusting the angle. "Trust me," she said, already framing the shot. "People love watching someone who knows what they're doing." I sighed and turned back to the delicate pages in front of me. An 1892 botanical journal, its binding barely holding together. "This kind of paper," I explained, "hands gentle, can't handle modern glues. That's why we use wheat paste. It's old-fashioned, but it works." When we finished, we watched the video together. My hands moved with practiced precision. My voice, calm and confident, narrated each step. Carol clapped once. "It's perfect." She uploaded it with the caption, *saving history, 1 page at a time, *. That first week, we gathered 43 followers, mostly Carol's friends, a few curious strangers. It felt small, but it was a start. By the 3rd week, we were nearing 2,000. Carol scrolled through the comments with a triumphant smile. "It's the book lovers," she explained. "They're sharing your videos in their online groups." I leaned over her shoulder, adjusting my glasses. The comments were kind, thoughtful. "This reminds me of my grandma's old library. She's so calm to watch, like comfort food for the soul. I didn't even know book restoration was a thing. I'm hooked. Every word felt like a little patch over something torn. We started filming regularly. Mondays became gardening day tips I'd learned from my own grandmother, like which herbs keep pests away. Tuesdays were for book repairs. Wednesdays, I showed off my vintage button collection, each one with a story. Thursdays, I baked old family recipes, simple and slow. Fridays were for archive finds, strange letters, forgotten photographs, the small marvels I'd uncovered in my years as an archivist. One Friday, I pulled a tray of lavender shortbread from the oven. The flowers came from my garden, I explained as Carol filmed, dried and candied by hand. The words came easily now. No notes, no rehearsals. Just me, doing what I loved. A month in, I received a message that made me freeze. It wasn't a comment or a like. It was a direct message from a small company called Heritage Home Preserves. * Miss Sterling, we've been enjoying your preserving tutorials. We'd love to send you a sample of our canning supplies in case you'd like to feature them. I stared at it, stunned. Carol, I called out. Someone wants to send me free jars. She hurried over, peering at the screen. That's a sponsorship. We finished filming the buttonhole stitch, and I cleaned up the fabric while Carol packed the tripod. Later that evening, I listened to Brittany's voicemail. Her tone was light, casual. Hey Grandma, just checking in. Also, did you seriously start a TikTok? Jaime's mom said she saw you online. Call me back, okay? Carol raised an eyebrow when I played it for her. She sounds surprised. She'd be more surprised when I don't drop everything to call her back. I replied, surprising even myself with the firmness in my voice. I wasn't angry. I was just done chasing her approval. Now, I was doing something for myself. That night, I scrolled through my videos. There I was, planting bulbs in the early morning sun. There I was, teaching the proper way to rebind an old prayer book. There I was, laughing as a batch of jam boiled over unexpectedly. Every clip was simple, unfiltered, mine. Then a new notification popped up. Blossom Books tagged you in a post. I tapped. If you love books, you need to follow Grandma Bea's wisdom. Her restoration tips saved my grandmother's Bible. I sat back stunned, not because of the recognition, but because someone had found meaning in what I'd shared. Real meaning, not likes, not clicks, connection. My phone buzzed again. This time, I answered. Grandma, Brittany's voice chirped. I saw your videos. You're really doing it, huh? Hello, Brittany. Yes, I've been sharing a few of my hobbies. That's unexpected. Her voice carried a hint of confusion. Maybe even condescension. Need help with anything? Those apps can be tricky. Actually, I said gently, I've been managing just fine. Carol's been helping me. Carol? Who's Carol? An old friend. There was silence on the line. I should go, I added. We're prepping tomorrow's gardening segment. Right, she mumbled. Well, good luck with that, I guess. After we hung up, I checked the stats on my latest video. Over 20,000 views. But more importantly, the comments were thoughtful, kind, curious. People weren't just watching. They were learning, engaging, remembering their own grandparents. I wasn't viral like Brittany used to be. But I was valued. I was seen. And it felt enough. A few days later, Brittany showed up unannounced. She flopped onto my sofa like she owned the place, scrolling through my videos. This stuff's kind of cute, she muttered. Very niche, though. You've got, what, a few thousand followers. I smiled, choosing not to correct her. The number had already passed 250,000. It keeps me busy, I said, pouring tea she hadn't asked for. She sipped it absent-mindedly. I'm pitching to Everglow Beauty next week, she said proudly. They're huge. This could be my big break." "That's nice, dear," I replied, gently. After she left, my phone rang again. Unknown number. Manhattan area code. "Miss Sterling, this is Vanessa Lee from Everglow Beauty. We've been following your content and are incredibly impressed." I blinked. "You mean my granddaughter, right?" "Brittany, no confusion," she said. "We're specifically interested in *U* for our new age-defying authenticity campaign. Your content is exactly what today's audience is craving." She outlined the offer. It was substantial. I had to sit down. "But why me?" "Because people trust you," Vanessa said. "They believe you. And frankly, we saw the video your granddaughter posted. You handled it with grace." Later that night, I signed the contract. Quietly, no announcement, no post. I didn't even tell Brittany. Some victories are best savored in silence. My mornings had taken on a rhythm of their own. Coffee first, then a walk through the garden, and now checking analytics. Carol had taught me how to read engagement metrics like a pro. That morning, I saw it. 250,000 followers. I smiled quietly into my mug. Then a text from Carol lit up my phone. "Have you seen Brittany's latest post? Likes, *." I hadn't checked her account in weeks. Last I'd heard, she was still riding high on the idea of landing Everglow. Curiosity got the better of me. I tapped over. Her view counts had plummeted. Videos that once got hundreds of thousands of views now struggled to reach 20,000. And the comments, brutal. "Isn't this the girl who humiliated her grandma? Still waiting for an apology. Followed. Not cute anymore. Her latest post was a teary-eyed video. "Guys, I need to address something," she said, her voice breaking just enough. "I've made some mistakes on my journey. I never meant to hurt anyone." But she never mentioned me. Not once. The comments noticed. "This is vague. Name what you did, or this is just damage control. Your grandmother deserves better. I set my phone down, a ripple of something like sympathy brushing through me. She was still my granddaughter, but 3 hours later, the doorbell rang and that sympathy vanished. She burst in without knocking. Face flushed, breath short. "What did you say to Everglow?" she demanded. "Hello to you too, Brittany," I said calmly. "I haven't spoken to anyone about you. My agent says they pulled the deal because of image concerns." She made air quotes, her fingers trembling. "They're going in a different direction. That was supposed to be my campaign." I kept my face neutral, though inside, my pulse quickened. I hadn't signed an NDA, but discretion seemed wiser than gloating. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said simply. She paced the room like a caged animal. Then her eyes landed on the counter, on the preserving jars, the stitching supplies, the gardening gear. Her expression twisted. "So now you're getting sponsorships?" I nodded once. "They've reached out. I've accepted a few." Her voice rose, sharp and raw. "What is this, Grandma? Are you trying to compete with me?" I set my teacup down carefully. "No, I'm simply sharing the things I love." She scoffed, gesturing wildly at the products. "Come on, your videos take off just as mine start tanking." "That's not a coincidence." I didn't flinch. "Maybe people are just tired of artifice." Her eyes narrowed. "You didn't even know how to upload a story 2 months ago." Who's really running your account? I said quietly. The same way I learned to restore a 19th century ledger or turn cuttings into roses. I learned. She stared at me like I'd grown another head. Then came the words I should have expected but still stung. You're not sweet. You're just like everyone else in this business, calculated. She grabbed her designer bag and headed for the door. I'm going to expose this whole grandma act, she snapped. My followers deserve the truth, that you're just another fake. The door slammed behind her, the sound rattling the frames on the wall. Photos of birthdays and school plays, moments that now felt like they belonged to someone else's life. I sat down, my hands trembling slightly. Then my phone pinged. Everglow campaign materials arriving tomorrow. Photo shoot confirmed for Thursday. I stared at the message, the irony settling over me like a warm blanket. While she plotted revenge, I was becoming the face of the campaign she'd lost, not by scheming, not by pretending, but simply by being myself. Just tilt your chin slightly, Miss Sterling. That's perfect. The photographer's voice was calm, professional, as he snapped shot after shot in my garden. Morning sunlight filtered through the petals of my roses, casting soft shadows across the lawn. The Everglow team had insisted we film here, said it felt more authentic. I had offered to rent a studio. They said, no. This is your story. Makeup artists had come that morning, but they didn't cake anything on. They enhanced the lines I had earned, not covered them. No fake backgrounds, no artificial setups. Just me in my backyard, wearing the apron my mother once wore. That's a wrap, called the director. I chuckled. At 72, I'd hope I'm a natural at being myself. Vanessa approached, handing me a thick, cream-colored envelope. This is your invitation to the Everglow Influence Awards, she said. They're unveiling the campaign this weekend. Awards? I blinked. That seems more Britney's thing. Vanessa smiled. Trust me, you'll want to be there. That afternoon, Carol arrived, buzzing with excitement. They've started teasing the campaign, she said, pulling out her tablet and sitting beside me. We watched together, hands flipping old book pages, fingers planting basil in garden soil, cookies cooling on a wire rack, no face shown, just hands mined with the tagline, "Beauty isn't manufactured, it's cultivated." They're building anticipation, Carol said, her eyes gleaming. Saturday came faster than I expected. I wore a simple navy dress, something quiet and elegant. Carol insisted on low heels, saying, "You're not there to teeter, you're there to be seen." As we rode to the venue in a sleek town car, she gave my hand a squeeze. "You've earned this, Bea, every bit of it." The red carpet was a blur of flashes and chatter. I recognized some faces, young influencers with glossy hair and glossy smiles, each one more camera-ready than the last. A few gave me polite nods, clearly unsure who I was. I simply smiled back, clutching my small handbag like a lifeline. Inside the ballroom, chandeliers sparkled overhead, and the air buzzed with anticipation. Vanessa guided me to a reserved table near the stage. "Perfect timing," she whispered. "They're about to make the announcement." Across the room, I spotted Brittany. She was seated at a table with other content creators, laughing, animated, tossing her hair like it meant something. She hadn't seen me. Not yet. The lights dimmed. A hush fell. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host began, his voice polished and warm. "Welcome to the 5th Annual Influence Awards." Applause. Then he smiled wider. But before we begin tonight's awards, our title sponsor, Everglow Beauty, has a very special announcement. Vanessa reached over and gently squeezed my hand. The Everglow CEO took the stage, a man in an impeccable suit with the calm authority of someone who didn't need to shout to be heard. For years, the beauty industry has chased youth and perfection, he began. But tonight, we begin a new chapter, one that honors experience, resilience, and the kind of beauty that can't be filtered. Behind him, the screen lit up. Everglow's logo faded into soft visuals, soil crumbling between fingers, an aged book opening, jam spread over warm scones. My hands, then my voice. Asterisk, true beauty isn't about erasing your story. It's about honoring each chapter, every line, every scar. They're not flaws, they're proof you've lived. Asterisk. The screen faded to my face, laugh lines, silver hair, eyes looking straight ahead. Asterisk, authenticity never goes out of style. Asterisk. Then my name. Asterisk, Beatrix Sterling, Everglow Global Ambassador. Asterisk. For a moment, the room was still. Then the applause came, slow at first, then rising like a wave. People stood. Some clapped with tears in their eyes. Not polite applause, real, moved, earned. Please welcome to the stage, the host said, his voice carrying the face of authentic beauty, Miss Beatrix Sterling. I rose slowly, my legs steady despite the weight of the moment. As I crossed the ballroom, the lights were warm, but not blinding. I looked out and found her. Brittany. Her smile had vanished, her posture wilted. She stared at the screen, then at me, then back again, realization settling on her face like a winter frost. This was the campaign, the one she had believed was hers. Our eyes locked for a second, brief, silent, and full of truths that didn't need saying. When I reached the stage, the CEO took my hand, guiding me to the podium. I looked out across the sea of faces, old and young, and felt no need to perform. No need to prove. Just speak. Thank you, I said, my voice calm. At my age, I've learned that beauty isn't something you chase. It's something you grow, like a garden, with patience, with love, and with an understanding that every season, even the hard ones, adds something. Another wave of applause, softer this time, almost reverent. Across the room, I saw Brittany rise from her chair. She didn't clap. She didn't smile. She just turned and walked toward the exit, her phone clutched in her hand like a broken compass. I didn't feel triumphant, just whole. This wasn't about revenge. It never had been. It was about reclaiming the space I had always deserved. And teaching her, if she was paying attention at all, that dignity doesn't demand attention. It simply endures. 6 months later, I sat in my sunroom, the afternoon light warming the tile beneath my feet. A teacup rested in my palm. Carol was behind the camera, giving me a thumbs up. We were filming a new segment for my weekly series, *Tea with Bea*. The channel had grown far beyond anything I imagined. 3 million followers. People from all over the world tuned in for gardening tips, book restorations, old recipes, and what Carol liked to call grandmotherly wisdom for a digital world. I picked up my tablet and read a viewer question aloud. "This one's from Eliza in Portland," I said, smiling. She asks, "How do you stay authentic when the world rewards the opposite?" I stirred my tea thoughtfully. "By remembering that peace matters more than applause. That what you do when no one's watching, how you treat people, how you treat yourself, that's what builds your character." Likes fade. but peace that stays after we wrapped. I checked my calendar. Tomorrow was a board meeting for the Sterling Digital Literacy Foundation, a nonprofit we'd launched with the money from my Everglow partnership. It helped older adults bridge the technology gap, taught them how to connect, how to create, how to be heard. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it to find Brittany. She stood on the porch, no makeup, hair pulled back, clothes simpler than I'd ever seen her wear. Her shoulders were slouched, and her eyes softer. "Grandma," she said quietly, "can we talk?" We sat in the garden, the silence between us thick but not hostile. She spoke first. She'd lost her apartment. Her sponsorships had dried up. She was working part-time at a boutique now. "The owner says I have an eye for layout," she offered with a faint smile. I nodded. "You always did see beauty." Her apology came slowly, not perfect, not rehearsed, but real. "I was so desperate to be noticed," she admitted. "I stopped noticing you. I listened without interrupting." Let her sit in the weight of it. Some lessons have to be carried before they're understood. When she finally looked up, I offered her a cup of tea. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But an opening. We talked. Slowly, cautiously. I made it clear that trust wasn't something you clicked to restore. It was something you earned back, one quiet moment at a time. She nodded. Didn't argue. Didn't deflect. Later, as the sun dipped low behind the trellis, I recorded my final journal entry of the day. Fame found me when I stopped chasing it. I said softly into the camera. Influence came when I focused on being meaningful to myself first. I never set out to teach Brittany a lesson. I just refused to accept the one she tried to teach me about my worth. Sometimes, the loudest statement isn't confrontation. It's staying rooted, steady, like my roses. I chose to bloom where I was planted, even when someone else tried to bury me. The camera light blinked off. Carol gave me a quiet nod from behind the lens. We didn't need to say anything more. That evening, as I watched the golden light stretch across the kitchen floor, I realized something. I wasn't just part of the world again. I had claimed my space in it, and this time, I wasn't anyone's joke. I was simply and unapologetically myself.